Go.
Hello and welcome to this Spring 2018 VMware webcast on what's new in cloud management. So a very fast-moving market. We're going to talk to Matt and Rory here about what the latest exciting news is in this area. My name is Rob Hayden. I'm a manager of the Cloud Management Technical Specialist for VMware in the UK. Over to you, Matt.
Oh, hello. My name is Matthew Steiner. I work for our Cloud Management Business Unit. I'm their representative in Europe, Middle East and Africa. Rory?
And hello, I'm Rory Chowdhury. I'm the Solutions Marketing Director for VMware in EMEA.
Fantastic. So before we get into any technical detail about product updates, etc., maybe, Matt, if you could take us through VMware's overall cloud management strategy. Has anything changed there?
Well, I don't think anything's necessarily changed. This is somewhere where I always start when I'm speaking with clients, because VMware's cloud vision is a pretty coherent vision, so I'll step you through it very quickly. At the bottom we see infrastructure. Our vision is to support every sort of infrastructure you're likely to be running, be it infrastructure based on VMware Cloud, from maybe using our own VMware Cloud Foundation, combination of NSX or networking, software-defined networking technologies, the vSAN or software-defined storage technologies, and vSphere, obviously our compute technologies. You may be using Cloud Foundation or a new service, which is VMware Cloud on AWS, a version of Cloud Foundation that runs on Amazon's data centers. We have a similar offering with IBM in IBM's cloud. And we also have over 4,500 service providers across the globe who run their clouds on VMware as well. But as well as that, our customers are deploying workloads on public clouds such as Amazon, Azure, Google Cloud Platform. So really what we seek to do with VMware strategy is to support all those landing points for all your workloads. And so, we have some foundational infrastructure technologies that could be landing points, but we do recognize that customers will sometimes land some workloads on Amazon and Azure. And what this does is, what we seek to give you is a consistent infrastructure experience. We also support containers as well as virtual machines. So whatever sort of resource you're using to consume compute, network and storage, we should be able to support that with both virtual machines and infrastructure. And on top of that, this is where the cloud management technologies come in. On top of that, we seek to provide you some visibility in what's going on. We seek to help you with operations, automation in your environment, whilst at the same time maintaining security and governance across everything you're doing, whether it's on-premises or off-premises. And we'll be talking a little bit about the updates to our cloud management solution. And it's our cloud management platform that provides those 5 things there: visibility, operations, automation, security, and governance. We'll also talk a little bit about cloud services later in this webinar. Cloud services is going to be a new way of consuming our cloud management platform, but I'll come to that later on. So if we look at that, what we're seeking here is to provide you consistent operations. So you'll have consistent infrastructure and then consistent operations. And thereby you avoid many of the silos that you might encounter if you didn't apply this consistency. And then hopefully the end goal there is that our infrastructure and operations technology will support whatever application you're seeking to deploy, be they traditional on-premises, off-the-shelf applications, or some new cloud-native applications that you might be driving.
Yeah, I think that's a good coverage of our cloud management strategy. To set it into context, VMware is 20 years old this year, so we're maturing along with the rest of the industry. And like most technology companies, we started off as a very product-focused organization, and now what we're doing is we're really trying to package what we do in terms of how it brings value to customers, and we dissect that offering into 4 broad solutions areas. There's this whole discussion we're having about modernizing the data center and using public clouds, integrating the usage of public clouds into that. In addition, we look extensively at how customers can transform their networking using some of the modern software-defined networking technologies that Matt just mentioned, and also to change how we do security. And we have a whole set of discussions about the security angle, which is topic for another webinar at some point. And then, of course, we have our digital workspace, our end-user portfolio, both from the usage perspective of the individual end user and from the management perspective, being able to manage multiple devices that are companies' employees tend to carry, and being able to give them the freedom of choice, but allow them to have the ability to do that in a secure, managed way that doesn't threaten the corporate environment. So to set the cloud management piece in context, we're talking about how customers modernize their data centers and how they then integrate public clouds into that, and that's really where the management piece has a huge part to play.
Yeah, and one interesting point there is, over the last, I don't know, couple of years, we've seen quite a lot of what we would class or call rogue IT, business units out going to buy some cloud and running their applications on it. I'm seeing a bit of a shift now. Over the last couple of months, I've been meeting with a number of clients, large clients, medium-sized clients. They're starting to see IT get back control of that hybrid cloud, that multi-cloud, coming back to the IT department. IT department starting to build cloud practices, really because it's all very well being able to consume the clouds very rapidly, but ultimately you do need to come back to that consistent operations. You ultimately still need governance, security, visibility, control over costs. So I think where VMware's vision is resonating very, very well with our clients, and I think the timing is brilliant. Our vision has come together at the right time, just as clients are looking to take back control of their complex cloud architectures that they're putting together.
Okay, so there's a lot in what we just talked about. There's clearly many different areas under this idea of cloud management, whether it's on-prem or public or both. So in terms of what's new, where do we start?
Okay, so our theme of this launch is on the slide at the moment. We're helping the customers achieve the consistent operations that we talked about before and greater productivity. So things like our new version of vRealize Automation, increasing productivity and faster time to value. We've put a lot more content into vRealize Automation that I'll talk to later on. Also with our operations technology, the concept of self-driving operations, so we ensure performance in the environment. We optimize capacity, and we do all this based on the business and IT intent that you have in your organization. So if we start looking at vRealize Automation 7.4 in a little more detail, three main things we're doing there. First thing I talk about is content. Content to me is king. It's what brings a product to life, and we've partnered now with Bitnami to provide some curated blueprints, about 120 blueprints. So out of the box, you've got over 120 blueprints for various applications you may want to deploy or infrastructure elements that you'd maybe want to deploy with VRA. Popular applications, databases, GitLab, Hadoop, Jenkins, all, it's a who's who of what people are wanting to deploy. So all that content is now available out of the box with VRA. We've also got a new feature called Custom Forms. And Custom Forms makes it a lot easier for you to extend your use of blueprints without having to have what we saw in the past, blueprint proliferation. You have a single blueprint with different flavors of that blueprint that you can offer to your consumers using the Custom Forms technology. And the other main thing we've done in VRA 7.4 is integration with vRealize Operations. What we're starting to see across the vRealize family as a whole is integration between all the technologies. So in this particular release, some very strong vRealize Operations, vRealize Automation integrations. In previous releases, we saw great integration with vRealize Operations and vRealize Business for Cloud.
Well, let's talk about vRealize Business for Cloud, because I think, if anything, it's a product whose time is very much coming. You know, as customers, as clients start to use more and more resources from the public cloud and start to use applications from the cloud, either as Saas or depending on their individual preferences where they happen to host them, the idea of being able to truly understand not just application performance and capacity utilization, but also to understand cost. So the real deep level analytics that expose not just the performance, but the actual cost of that performance, the ability to compare and contrast your own private data center and installing resources in there with purchasing capacity from the cloud, with using applications directly delivered from the cloud by other vendors, becomes ever more important. We're still at the stage where we don't see an awful lot of chargeback, but we're certainly seeing an increase in what we affectionately call cloud showback. And I think this whole kind of piece of giving customers ever greater amounts of information on which to base decisions is really critical. So that's a quick pitch on why I believe vRealize Business for Cloud is critically important in this overall discussion about multi-cloud and cloud management.
And absolutely, it's taking off. If I wind back the clock about 9 months, 9 months and 9 to 18 months ago, I was spending a lot of time going to customers and telling them about vRealize Business, our cost management solutions, and I'm sure all our customers were extremely interested in hearing about those great technology. That shifted about 9 months ago. I started to get more customers coming to me asking, oh, you told us about this cost management solution. I think I need one of those now. Tell me more, because I'm starting to deploy some applications in clouds, be it private cloud or off-premises and public cloud. I need the cost. So it's really a step change in what we've seen. I also was speaking to one of our key analysts, and he reflected that he was seeing the same thing as well. So it's definitely something that's happening in the marketplace. We're definitely seeing customers really want to get to grips with cost, that visibility on cost, particularly as the cloud landscape gets complex for them, as they start to consume multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, just multiple cloud platforms. They really need to get a grip on it.
Thanks, Matt. And that makes a lot of sense in the sort of stage of maturity I think we're now reaching with all of these different cloud offerings. So let me rewind just a little bit to go back to something you talked about before, and the specific new capabilities in vRealize Automation in particular. You mentioned these custom forms. So tell me a bit more about that. What do they let you do?
Yes. So before we had custom forms available, you'd find customers would have just too many blueprints to cater for everything that they would need in their catalog. So rather than have a single blueprint with options for that blueprint, they would end up with multiple blueprints. You'd have a blueprint for a large 3-tiered application, a blueprint for a medium one, and a blueprint for a small one. With the custom forms, we're giving you the ability easily within the UI to add those sort of options so that you can have a single blueprint with different flavors of that blueprint. And that will, particularly for our customers, our largest customers who've had a bit of blueprint proliferation, that will greatly help them curate their vRealize Automation catalog. So it'll be very useful for them going forward.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned the enhancements in operations. You mentioned consistent operations a few times. You talked about this sense of automation and integrating those two products, vRealize Operations, vRealize Automation, to get something that's more than the kind of sum of its parts. So in a bit more detail, where are we going with that? What's been changed there?
I'll jump on that one, Rob. So we've, if you like, given it a caption of self-driving, because that's somewhat of a current term, if you like. But what we mean by that, because there is genuine meaning behind it, what we're talking about is that deep-level integration that Matthew referred to a few moments ago between the two products, or between multiple products, but in this case we're talking about between operations and automation. And that gives you the ability not just to make more intelligent, better considered placement decisions when you first set up an application or a service or put workloads in place, but also to benefit from that continuous operations insight, the analyzing of the environment, understanding of the usage of capacity, understanding cost, as we talked about a few moments ago. So that really allows for far better overall working environments and greater levels of insight to be surfaced within the vRealize Automation piece, but using the data that's generated from vRealize Operations and Log Insight.
Yes, and in there we have this idea of business and operational intent. I mean, really what we're seeking to do here is hide the complexity, but use the capabilities of the vRealize Operations and the many attributes that are in there to deliver on the intent we wish to deliver. So make intelligent decisions about where to move workloads to based on your operational intent. So for example, you may have an intent to ensure compliance, well, as we move workloads around, let's make sure we move workloads to the correct zones so that we don't move a workload that needs to be PCI compliant away from a PCI compliant zone. One of our intents may be to drive application performance at minimal cost. Well, then we can embed that intent into the operational tooling so that we deliver on that. Whereas previously you'd have to work out, am I driving performance up, but what is my cost? So linking cost and linking performance together in the single platform allows us really to deliver on these business and operational intents. Because as already mentioned, self-driving, it is there to automate and simplify. And the things we want to do is optimize performance. We want to operate very efficiently, but we need to adapt to the changing environment. And we want to try and do as much of that automatically. So provide the intent to the solution, and it will hopefully, it will, deliver on those intents without you actually having to do much yourself. It will do everything automatically for you.
Which, of course, comes from that deep level of integration that we talked about. One of the other examples that is perhaps relevant in terms of intent is licensing. So if you have a particular vendor, that provides you with a licensing scheme where you need to cluster a particular application.
Would this be a database vendor?
It might be a database vendor indeed, and you might want to ensure that those licenses are very tightly controlled and coupled to a small cluster, and never shall they move, so you're not liable for additional cost. And I'd call out within that a new integration that we've just announced recently. About a year and a half ago, we purchased a small company called Wavefront, who provide huge analytics at scale across the internet, and they provide that as a service. We've now integrated that back into actually the other way around. Sorry, we've integrated vRealize operations data into Wavefront, so you can make those kind of decisions, even at that level of scale, using the Wavefront interface. So, really powerful.
Okay, Rory. So, tell us a bit more about Wavefront. I mean, you mentioned internet scale. It's delivered as a SaaS service, right? So,
yes.
Tell us a bit about the use cases that allows, in addition to what people might be doing with vRealize operations today.
Yes, so Wavefront, it's heritage. It's a very new product, but it does have a heritage. Heritage was supporting cloud-native applications. At the time when we acquired Wavefront, their clients were SaaS clients, essentially, running applications cloud-natively in the cloud. So customers such as Box and Intuit and Workspace, the UK Space Ape Games, customers such as that, to help manage and understand the performance of their applications. But it doesn't just play to cloud-native applications now. With the integration of vRealize operations, we can now support on-premises applications. We get better instrumentation from the infrastructure that's hosting those applications. So it's a pretty unique product. It's incredibly fast, incredibly performant. A lot of people will start application monitoring, maybe using some open source technologies, and we respect that, and that's a great way for when people are starting to stand up new applications. But quite quickly, they find out that those applications don't necessarily provide them the levels of availability they need for mission-critical cloud applications that are maybe making them money, and it's absolutely critical it doesn't go down. They don't necessarily provide the performance they need. With Wavefront, we can ingest 4 million data points every second and keep those data points at full fidelity without any roll-ups forever, effectively. So that level of performance, that level of scale, is something that a lot of our clients are wanting to do for their mission-critical applications. And then just another word on integration. We've already seen integration in the last couple of releases with our on-premises technology, vRealize operations, automation, and vRealize business. And we are starting to see these integrations with our off-premises cloud service technology. And one thing I missed, actually, we'll have some links at the end, is if you want to learn more about Wavefront, it's great technology. We'll send you there'll be some links at the end of this presentation where you can see some YouTube videos on how to use Wavefront, and etc. So go and take a look at those. Also, if you want to go to cloud.vmware.com, you'll see all of our cloud services, of which Wavefront is one of those, and you can sign up for a free trial at that URL.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, and I think those YouTube links should be available in the handout section on the webinar interface as well. So you mentioned just one of our cloud services. So what else is there? Clearly, SaaS delivery gives us the capability to do things in different ways. So tell us a bit more about that, Rory.
Yeah, we have responded to what we hear from customers. Customers are looking to certainly consume some of their IT from the cloud as SaaS services, as opposed to using the cloud as a location. And we're responding to that. So a lot of what we do and have traditionally provided as technology that is installed on-premise, we're equating that now with equivalent offerings as cloud services. So, for example, we now have, we mentioned Wavefront, but we have Network Insight. So you have the ability to either deliver that as a SaaS service or have it on-premise. Cost Insight, the same kind of principle. And we have a large, currently I think we have about 8 or 10 different services and rapidly growing suite of SaaS services which will perform the same functions as you would traditionally get from our on-premises solutions, from everything from a cloud equivalent of your in-house virtualization of compute. So you can buy vSphere and virtualize your servers, or you can buy VMware Cloud on AWS, or as Matthew mentioned, 4,500 other cloud providers building their public cloud provision on VMware technologies. And to complement that infrastructure capability, more and more services that allow you to actually achieve the same ends, but in a OpEx-derived way.
Okay, so the SaaS, the cloud services are relatively new, but it sounds from what you're saying as though the on-prem offerings and the SaaS cloud services are starting to converge in some way?
Yeah, we're moving in that direction. And there's probably 3 things really that I talk about when it comes to our SaaS services, and they're on the slide there. The first one is choice, and that's probably the main thing that I like to talk about. It really is choice of consumption. Do you want to consume our products as an on-premises technology, where you water and feed it yourself, you upgrade it yourself, etc., etc., or would you rather just consume it as a SaaS technology? A lot of IT vendors have been moving towards SaaS models, and they're proving very popular. So, for example, if you're using Office, Office 365 is a very compelling solution instead of the traditional way that we've consumed Office for many, many years. And we're doing the same with our technology. So, choice. You would get a choice of consuming, in the case of the cost solution is a very good example. You can either choose to consume VMware's Business for Cloud as an on-premises offering, or pretty much the same offering as a SaaS offering called Cost Insight. So that's the first thing, choice. The second one is slightly different use cases. So with the cloud services use cases, at least initially, are very more closely aligned with some of the cloud initiatives that you have in place. So development initiatives, maybe where you're deploying new workloads to cloud or developing new workloads on cloud. Our cloud services, at least initially, will be more favorable, more targeted at that sort of use case. And thirdly, on convergence, I do expect to see functional convergence in many cases where that convergence is appropriate. So there'll be some of the services that will lend themselves more to functional convergence. So our cost solutions, our automation solutions, our logging solutions. Other solutions may lend themselves less towards functional convergence because maybe they are only solutions that are relevant in public cloud. They may not be relevant in the private cloud. So where appropriate, we'll see functional convergence, and where inappropriate, we may see divergence. And it'll be a journey we'll be on over the next few years. So expect to hear a lot more about SaaS. It's an important part of our strategy going forward. So looking forward to working more with our SaaS technologies in the future.
And I think another example of that convergence we're seeing is the vRealize Lifecycle Manager, being simplified with or this whole simplification, looking at the on-prem experience with that. And I think what Lifecycle Manager gives you is that cloud-like simplicity, but on-premise, by really making it so much easier to manage your physical infrastructure by taking the pain out of it, the day-to-day humdrum stuff, the patching, the updating, ensuring that everything goes in, adding new pieces in. Lifecycle Manager just absolutely takes care of it, and it becomes an integrated and integral part of the offering. So, the one thing I will call out, of course, is that we do expect to see different development cycles for the on-prem and the SaaS-based offering. So while they will be functionally similar, and over time perhaps even functionally identical in some cases, we will still maintain different development time cycles for the two different offerings.
Yeah, and just on Lifecycle Manager, version 1.2 is now available. Superb product. I'm getting some really good feedback already. Had one large retail client, and they just used it last week to upgrade from Bureau's Automation 7.3 to 7.4, and they sent a glowing letter of praise through the account manager to be directed to our engineering team. So I was thrilled to receive that, and it's great to see an area of investment. I mean, we've talked in my business unit, we've talked about this for a couple of years when it comes to our investments. One area of investment was to make clouds easier to use, make on-premises clouds easier to use, and Bureau's Lifecycle Manager is delivering on that. So it's great to see that sort of technology come out and be valuable to our clients.
Okay, thank you, Matt. So with these choices, with the ability to consume some of these management interfaces in different places, on-prem, public cloud, wherever, it sounds more and more like we need a way to connect together these different clouds securely as easily as possible. So I know we have an offering in this space. I think it probably makes sense to explain that a little bit, how it underpins what you can do with these cloud management technologies.
So I guess what you're referring to, Rob, is the kind of approach of customers wanting to have still the majority, in the way we see it, 70-75% of their workloads being on-premise, but increasingly using workloads from the cloud, so taking a hybrid approach. And I think the key piece for me, talking to a number of different customers, is to always remember that cloud is best described in this kind of context as an approach, as an architecture, as a way of building IT rather than as a specific destination. So to use those kind of principles. Because what we want to have is the ability to maintain compliance, to maintain compatibility, to maintain control, and certainly above all to maintain security without losing out on the simplicity that cloud brings. So the last thing we want is having made our internal on-premise data center easier to manage, easier to control, and broken down the traditional silos, if you like. The last thing we'd want is to build up fresh new silos. So that's really where cloud as an approach and this hybridity of approach, what many people talk to as hybrid cloud, really comes into its own. And one of the pieces that we do with that is see our job as helping our customers to maintain compliant, secure, and simple connectivity between their various locations of infrastructure, whether that's SaaS, public cloud, private cloud, whatever. One of the other pieces that I'll quickly call out, and then we can talk to the tools, and particularly a new tool that's really exciting in this area. But one thing I want to call out is that whenever I talk to particularly C-level audiences and C-1 level audiences, their number one challenge seems to be finding the right people. And whether that's a case of hiring in the right people or being able to, effectively and economically enable their existing staff to take on a broader base of a hybrid cloud approach, that's really one of the key pieces that seems to be challenging people. And I think this is an area that VMware can really help address, and we're very focused on making that traditional ease of use that we've brought with us over the last 20 years and extending that to the offering that helps customers to have this kind of hybrid cloud approach.
Yeah, and coming to that simplicity, simple connectivity, we've also launched a really unique networking capability, which we call Hybrid Cloud Extension, or HCX. HCX enables secure networking across multiple clouds. And we included, and we just announced that we're going to include HCX technology with our VMware Cloud on AWS offering. So HCX, the ability to join multiple, maybe disparate VMware clouds together and move workloads from one place to another. So there are several use cases for HCX. If we look at the use case around VMware Cloud on AWS, it's going to allow customers to very simply take maybe their slightly older versions of vSphere that are running on private cloud and move those workloads really simply into VMware Cloud on AWS. So hybrid cloud extension, take a look at that at cloud.vmware.com. Really great technology we've got available. One of those magic technologies that we sometimes stumble across in VMware. I'm kind of seeing it like Magic vMotion for hybrid and multi-cloud solutions.
And it's interesting you say that, Matt, because I was talking to a customer the other day, and of course the initial premise of hybrid cloud extension of HCX was as a migration tool. But we're also seeing it, and alluding to what you said about of vSphere on the different clusters versus what's in the cloud, we're seeing it being used as an upgrade tool, which is pretty impressive. I just want to stress that when Matthew said that hybrid cloud extension HCX is now included in VMware Cloud on AWS, there's no change to the pricing, so we've made it available as part of that service for free.
Yeah, which I think reflects how important it is to be able to connect that very, very interesting public cloud offering to the data centers that you're running internally completely seamlessly. Fantastic. So, to summarize, there are clearly a number of very attractive updates to the automation and operations product, as well as better integration in between them. Any other final comments, Matt, Rory?
Really, just let's not forget about this idea of defining your intent. Define your business intent, define your operational intent, let the platform get on with it, let the platform execute and keep everything in the right place, keep things running smoothly. So that to me is one of the big takeaways, that self-driving operations and that ability to define your business and operational intent.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I guess I'd add that all these new cloud services, this hybrid cloud extension, the hybrid approach that we're talking about, help customers to bring together services deployed on multiple clouds and in their own private data center.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Rory. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.